So good morning, children. So welcome back to our civics class today. And in today's class, we are going to discuss about another house of the parliament, which is known as Rajya Sabha. So we have discussed in our earlier classes that there are two houses in the parliament, and one is Lok Sabha, the other is Rajya Sabha. And Lok Sabha is people's house, where the MPs who will go to Lok Sabha will be directly elected by the people of the nation. And there is another house called Upper House or Rajya Sabha. See, this Upper House or Rajya Sabha. See, this is a word in Hindi. Rajya means states. So the purpose of creation of Rajya Sabha is that all the states should be represented in the law-making process of the central legislative body. So Parliament, which is a central legislative body or the central government, it needs even the support of states. It cannot become a polarized center, or it cannot become a center for power. So it should have even the contribution of states in making the laws. So Rajya Sabha has been created even to involve all the states, that is the Council of States, in the lawmaking process. So this Rajya Sabha is also called upper house of the parliament. All the laws except few, like there are certain things which we'll discuss in higher class. All the bills that comes to Lok Sabha or introduced in Lok Sabha have to be even accepted by the Rajya Sabha. So it plays a very important role, except few bills. That exceptions I won't discuss now because it is in your higher classes. So most of the bills which come to Lok Sabha will next go to the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha has to accept all the bills. So by making Rajya Sabha to have the power to discuss and accept all the bills that were sent from Lok Sabha, all the states were also given proper representation in the union lawmaking process. So that is the importance of Rajya Sabha. You can see in the picture, the Rajya Sabha, the house inside, this is the chair from where the presiding officer will function, and these are the chairs of the members where they are seated, and the discussions and all will go on. And what is the composition? So the composition of Rajya Sabha is generally 250 members. So what is the strength? 250 members. And the number of members to Rajya Sabha is allotted on the basis of population of the states. See, so here what happens is, as I told you, the members of Rajya Sabha can be total they can be in total of 250 members. 250 members can be accommodated in Rajya Sabha, and the members are allotted on the basis of population of the state. So I'll explain this point little further so that you'll come to know. The states with more population have highest number of members, while states with less population have less members. So to understand this thing, you need to understand one more thing, how these people are elected. So the people of Rajya Sabha or the members of Rajya Sabha are elected indirectly. So based on the population of the state, the number of members that can be sent from that state to Rajya Sabha is also decided. So the state with highest number of the state with highest population will have more members in Rajya Sabha. States with less population have less members. So Uttar Pradesh, it's a very big state, and it has as many as 31 members in Rajya Sabha. Nagaland has only one member. So you may get doubt, sir, why this population basis and all. See, as Rajya Sabha members are elected mostly the Rajya Sabha members are elected through indirect way. So what is meant by indirect way? Here indirect way means the MLAs of every party will elect their Rajya Sabha members. So state with highest population will have more number of MLAs. So clearly you will understand this point, right? State, so I'll come back to the point again, listen carefully. State with more population will elect more Rajya Sabha members. Why? The reason is the state with more population can elect more number of MLAs, and as Rajya Sabha members are elected by MLAs, the state with highest number of MLAs can be able to elect more number of Rajya Sabha members. So hence Uttar Pradesh is having more number of MLAs and it can elect more number of Rajya Sabha members. Nagaland has very less number, so it can elect only one member. So in general, Rajya Sabha, no, they'll have suppose some 35 MLAs can elect one Rajya Sabha member. So that was the general proportion. And in Rajya Sabha, 238 members present represent the states and union territories. So out of the 250 members of Rajya Sabha, 238 will be elected indirectly from union territories and states. The MLAs in the union territories and the states will be electing this 238 members to Rajya Sabha, and 12 members are nominated by President from the fields of art, literature, science and social service. So out of 250, 238 can be sent from states and union territories, and remaining 12 will be nominated by President from these fields directly to Rajya Sabha. So they wanted to use the people from these kind of areas and their experience and other things. So they'll be taken, and the members are indirectly elected. So indirectly means people will not vote for the members. Then how they are elected? In general, in every state, people will elect their MLAs, and the MLAs or the elected members of legislative assemblies, they will elect the members of Rajya Sabha. So the members of legislative assemblies, Andhra Pradesh, we have our own MLAs. So these MLAs will elect the Rajya Sabha members. To make it generally, 35 MLAs can elect one Rajya Sabha members. So the party with 35 MLAs, minimum 35 or 30 MLAs, they can send one Rajya Sabha member. So this is about the introduction of Rajya Sabha. So coming to the term of a Rajya Sabha member. So Rajya Sabha member will enjoy a term of 6 years. How many years? 6 years. Unlike Lok Sabha members, the parliament members of Lok Sabha, they have 5 years in Lok Sabha, whereas in Rajya Sabha they have a term of 6 years. And Rajya Sabha is permanent house. So there is no such question of dissolving of this house. This house will exist always. You may get doubt. Sir, is Lok Sabha a permanent house? No. Lok Sabha will be re-elected every 5 years, right? So every 5 years elections will happen and new Lok Sabha will form, and hence Lok Sabha is never a permanent house, whereas Rajya Sabha, it is a permanent house. How Rajya Sabha is a permanent house? Because the term of a member is 6 years on one side, and 1/3 of its member retire every 2 years. So here there is no such question of dissolving of the house. Here people will not elect the members, remember. So whenever you come across this word permanent house, remember that this house is not elected directly by people. Hence there is no question of permanent, temporary and all. Hence this always remains, and this cannot be dissolved. And generally they complete 6 years, and 1/3 of its members retire every 2 years. So what do you mean by 1/3? If suppose for example they take 100 as total, generally the strength is 250, but take 100 members, in that 1/3 means 33. So every 2 years 33 members will retire and new members will get elected. So every 2 years people will be getting re-elected, and not always the house will be with elected members. So there is no question of getting dissolved, or there is no question of no temporary word here. So hence it is always a permanent house. And what are the qualifications of members of Rajya Sabha? So to become a member of Rajya Sabha, he must be a citizen of India, must be 30 years of age and above, and possess sound mental health. So which you understand clearly, no need to explain in more detail. And he should not hold any office of profit under government of India. That means he must not be a government servant under the government of India. And he should not be a criminal or insolvent. So criminal means he should not have any proved charges of any crime against him from the courts, as well as insolvent. That means he should not have any loans pending with the banks. And presiding officer of or presiding officers of Rajya Sabha. See, generally the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha is referred as chairman. So what is he referred as? Chairman. Whereas you take Lok Sabha, he is referred as speaker. And here the vice president of India is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. So here I said the speaker or the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha is the chairman. The chairman also is our vice president. Okay, Vice President of India also acts as the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Here there is a word called ex officio. So what do you mean by ex officio chairman? Generally there will be a protocol for authority. That means, by his authority he becomes the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So the vice president and chairman of Rajya Sabha are one and the same. But once the vice president is in Rajya Sabha, he will have to exercise his functions as chairman. Once he is out of Rajya Sabha, his position will be vice president. So this, what is the difference between vice president and chairman powers and all that you study in the later chapters, but you remember that the vice president of India, once he enters into the Rajya Sabha, he acts as a chairman and he presides that Rajya Sabha. So he conducts the proceedings of Rajya Sabha. So generally the chairman or the vice president, so generally chairman, you refer it as chairman whenever we are talking during Rajya Sabha. The chairman will conduct the proceedings of Rajya Sabha. But whenever he is absent, that means in his absence due to illness or due to some other works and all, if he is unable to attend the house and preside the function, the deputy chairman presides over the Rajya Sabha. So like the deputy speaker in Lok Sabha, here also we have deputy chairman, and this deputy chairman is elected from among the members of the Rajya Sabha by majority vote. So the Rajya Sabha members who have, who are the members in the house, they themselves elect their deputy chairman, and this deputy chairman will function in the absence of the chairman. So this is about the term, qualification, and the presiding officer of Rajya Sabha. So remember that we have been discussing about the union legislature, right? So we have finished the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So president, I'm not going to discuss now because we are going to discuss president separately in the next chapter. So let us stick to the union legislature. See, the union can legislate on many subjects. So here, as I said, the central government has power to make laws on different matters. So here, on what matters the union government can make laws, that we will see how the constitution has provided, to say, we have generally discussed that in the beginning of the lesson, that the central and state governments are there. Central government can make laws on its own subjects, state governments can make laws on its own subjects. So constitution has divided on which area this specific government should make laws. It has already segregated those aspects. Let us see how the legislative subjects are distributed. So what do you mean by legislative subjects here? On what areas the central government can make, or on what areas the state governments can make. So under the Indian Constitution, legislative subjects are categorized into three lists: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. So what do you mean by union list? So union legislature can make laws on certain subjects, not on all the subjects, but certain subjects. What do you mean by state list here? The states are empowered by constitution to make laws on certain aspects under their control. What do you mean by concurrent list here? This is a list of areas where the central and state both can make laws. Okay, so on this subject, concurrent means this is a mixture of both. So on these are the subjects or areas on which both the union and state governments can make laws. What is a union list? On what areas the central government can make laws? So on 97 subjects, so on 97 areas or 97 items, the central government can make laws. So it's a huge number, right? So which the union parliament has exclusive power to make laws. On 97 items of this country, the central government or the union parliament can make laws like defense, finance, banking, post and telegraph, railways, airways, shipping, currency, foreign affairs, imports, exports. See, defense is there, right? Our military and other areas. Do you expect the state government to make laws on that? No. So military and the defense sector will work under the central government or the union parliament. So these all the laws regarding defense, finance of the country, banking sector, railways, all such areas, the laws will be made by the central government. So central government through union parliament, it can make laws on all these subjects. And state list. What is state list? So there are 66 subjects on which every state government can make laws. Here it is 97 with the union, whereas here on 66 subjects the state governments can make laws. Okay, so the subjects contained in the state list are public law and order, public health and sanitation, drainage, state transport, state taxes, agriculture and revenue. So on all such issues, the state governments can make laws on their own. So here central government will not involve in making such laws on these subjects like sanitation, public health, all such issues. So here the states are completely empowered to make laws. Coming to the concurrent list, see here the state government, they can make on agriculture, irrigation, trade and its own law and order, which is nothing but the police. So they can make their own laws. No need to rely on the central government or depend on central government. Concurrent list has 47 subjects. So what is this concurrent list? Concurrent list is a list under which both union or both the central and state governments can make laws. So this is the concurrent list on which both central government and state government can make laws. So what are and how many subjects they can make? 47 subjects they can make laws together. And the concurrent list it comprises economic and social planning, marriage, bankruptcy, insolvency, education, electricity, factories, newspaper, many such new items. These are the areas in which both governments can make laws. And in case of a conflict between union and state legislature over any subject in the three lists, the union law prevails. Suppose state government has made a law on like education, and the state government, central government also had made a law on education. Now this law is having some contradiction now. Which law has to be followed? So on the concurrent list of subjects, if there is a conflict between laws made, similar laws made on central and state by state and central governments, then the union law will prevail. If both central and state governments make law on a concurrent list subject, then a conflict will arise. That means on the same subject in the concurrent, on a subject in concurrent list, if both union government and state government makes law, then what will happen? A conflict will arise. Which law has to be followed? And to address that conflict, Constitution has given said that in case of a conflict between state and union legislature on concurrent list, the union law will prevail. So whatever law has made by central government, that will be working, or that will function more than the state government's law. So this is about the distribution of legislative subjects as per the Constitution.